we pretty much bringing back Near AI. And so my co-founder actually worked on AI on the side for the past year. We had a team working with him, and so we're bringing this as Near AI, and we're going to be working on open source user-owned AI. We're going to be training models. We're going to be kind of curating data. We're going to be open sourcing data as well, and we're creating a new economic model around it as well.
Which is?
And it's really about having more people join kind of the ecosystem of Near if they want to use the kind of the models, the data we build for commercial purposes.
Welcome to the Encrypted podcast, your gateway to the future of technology and innovation, right here in the heart of Dubai's dynamic tech universe. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and together with Dubai Blockchain Center, we are embarking on a journey that unravels the minds of tech visionaries through the digital frontiers that are shaping our world. Hello and welcome everyone to Encrypted podcast. I'm Maria Vovchok and I'm really happy to have here today Illia Polosukhin, who is a co-founder of Near Protocol, a scalable, robust and highly usable blockchain and development platform. And also he's a co-founder of Unchained Fund. Near Protocol launched in 2020 and aims to onboard 1 billion users to the open web. Before Near, Illia worked in AI research team at Google, and he also co-authored the landmark paper, Attention is All You Need. Sounds really interesting, by the way. Illia has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Bloomberg, Time, Wired, New York Magazine, and TechCrunch. He was fascinated by machine learning and AI since he was 10. Is that correct, Illia?
That's true, yes.
Can you please tell us, I would like to know a bit, let's say, going back when you were a kid, 10 years, how did you maybe know at the time this is going to be a future?
It started actually, I watched a movie, which is artificial intelligence. And so I was, pretty kind of fascinated as well as excited about this idea. And then I was reading a lot of science fiction, like Asimov and kind of similar. And I think kind of always thought of we as humans, we're always trying to develop and kind of create, there's this statement of bicycle for our mind, right? And artificial intelligence is something that can go way beyond that, right? And both can create, artificial being, but also what I'm more interested in is augmenting our own intelligence to become kind of super people, super intelligence. And so that's kind of what always excited me. I've been coding since I was 10 as well. So somewhere I remember when I was 14, I was trying to build first neural networks as well. And so I was really excited to go both study this back in Kharkiv, but also ended up starting working for a company while in Kharkiv for a San Diego machine learning company that's been around for a while at the time. And kind of learning.
Ukraine?
Yeah, so they had an office in Ukraine, but the headquarters was in San Diego. And so I was pretty much since 17 was working for a machine learning company as well, kind of hands-on studying how things work, doing different projects on even like everything from cancer research to oil, finding oil in the fields based on data and machine learning. So.
Oh my God, that's fascinating. Actually, a lot of things that you've done, I believe that who's watching us for the first time, you definitely need to learn more about Illia Polosukhin. That's why we're really happy that he's joined our Encrypted podcast. I actually additionally wanted to ask you about the landmark paper that you wrote together. Attention is all you need. Can you please tell us more in detail about that?
Yeah, so fundamentally, we saw an evolution of deep learning happening, and this is the reason why I joined Google, because I thought Google having actually all the talent to really push the envelope. And so this was in kind of 13, 14. I joined in the beginning of 2014. And the benefit was, a lot of smart people working on cutting edge deep learning research. I kind of contributed to TensorFlow, which was a machine learning framework, but we all kind of were I would say like specifically for natural language, for understanding knowledge, for question answering, which also is the main job of Google.com, right? Like of the product. We were always kind of behind and in a way too slow for putting it in front of the users. To give you an example, when you ask questions on Google, right, you have expectation that the answer comes back in like, a few hundred milliseconds.
Yeah.
When you're training machine learning models back in the day, they would need time to read the article, right? And they would read one word at a time, similar how we do, right? Imagine you ask somebody and they're like, oh, wait for 5 minutes, I need to go read the Wikipedia for you. And so we had this interesting research, but never could get in front of the user. And we did a lot of like kind of simplifications and kind of smaller models. But the idea came, Jakob Uskorit, who was kind of director of like multiple teams, including mine, came with this idea of, now it's called self-attention, which is, what if we don't actually try to read each word at a time? What if we read all words at the same time and then try to resolve and ambiguate and reason about it through a set of so-called transformations? And so that's what kind of gave this like original thought of transformers. We prototyped it, it worked. It was not kind of completely random. And so then obviously through a lot of work across the whole team, it became state-of-the-art model that is able to pretty much at way lower kind of latency computation requirements to actually be trained and become a state-of-the-art for understanding natural language translation, question answering. And as we saw, people then kept scaling it up, right? So what we see now, right, OpenAI went and, through first, I don't know, probably like a few $1 million of compute, then $60 million of compute now for GPT-5. I think they're training on like hundreds of millions of compute to really get a model that is able to reason about what's going on in the world, right? Have the common sense, have the knowledge. And all that is based on this kind of fundamental technology that we developed at Google called transformers.
Let's right now talk and focus more on Near protocol, because Near protocol, as we know it today, initially had nothing to do with blockchain, because especially taking into account your AI experience, you started this also as an AI company, because again, as I mentioned, you were fascinated with machine learning AI. What made you at the time pivot from an original idea?
Yeah, so I left Google pretty much as we kind of developed this technology of transformers, and I left Google to start Near AI. So it actually was Near.ai originally. And we wanted to teach machines to code. And this, I think, is conceptually changing how we interact with computing. Part of this, and we see this right now with ChatGPT and kind of with some of the similar tools now, that unlocking everyone to be able to talk to a machine and kind of describe the intent, describe what you want to be achieved without actually explaining how it should be done, and letting the machine figure out the set of steps and potentially build front end and an interface for you, potentially do set of actions on internet, potentially build a piece of software for you that you can then use and reuse again. That's changing how we interact with computing, right? Right now you need to go either find a software as a service that provides you this or hire someone to build it for you. And so that we were trying to do that in 2017. Now that was too early by far, and too early is wrong. But one of the things we were trying to do is push the research forward. And what we did, we wanted to collect more training data for our models. And so we engaged students. They were in China, they were in Eastern Europe, they were kind of in other places to collect data for us. Now, the challenge with students is that they don't have bank accounts. Also, we're a US company. Sending money from US to China, even to Ukraine actually, is challenging. Yeah, PayPal didn't work with Ukraine.
At that time, yes.
Right. Some people didn't have a U.S. bank account, for example, so you couldn't send them dollars, and you could not exchange to hryvnia on. China is a bit more complicated, right? So we had this very clear challenge of we were building something. We needed to have a programmable payment system that works globally, and we also were paying pretty small amounts, right? We were paying 15 cents. 30 cents per per set of tasks. And so if you also look at any of the payment systems, right, they also charge like a tremendous amount. So blockchain seemed like a solution, right? We thought like, hey, we can just use blockchain and, under the hood and then keep doing what we're doing. But the more you dive in, so this was already 2018, we're like, well, Bitcoin too expensive, Ethereum too expensive, and then you go down the list and like, this doesn't work. I mean, we are like, our background is systems engineers, so we can analyze kind of, the more we dive in, it's like, well, there's an opportunity to do something that is actually works, allows to have micropayments, is easy to program, and importantly, easy to use, because even though I'm an engineer, I fully understand how the blockchain works. I still don't want to do all of the steps required to set it up, right? So an example is, again, we wanted to pay people, meaning when they join, they should not need to pay first themselves, right? And which is, especially in 2018, that was kind of a normal thing. You set up a wallet, and first thing you do, you go to exchange to buy some crypto to fund this wallet so you can use something. And so like, we're going to pay them, but they need to first buy pretty much like a share of our company before they can work for us. That's kind of how, this felt. And so Near was kind of, as we pivoted into blockchain protocol, was we want to solve this problem. So we want to make it really easy to use, really easy to build on, and it should be extremely scalable, maintaining low fees. And we achieved that. Near now has the most users in Web3. Like we have 2 million daily active, 10 to 20 million monthly actives. Near has WebAssembly, so you can build in Rust, in C, in JavaScript, and potentially Python, any programming language. It's a pretty straightforward programming model. And it's scalable. We've been processing more transactions than all of the layer 2s together at
even more than Polygon.
Yeah, more than Polygon, with Base, with Arbitrum, with Optimism together. We've processed more per day. And this is at 0.2 of a cent. So 0.0002 dollar per transaction. So like 1/5 of a cent.
Dubai, home for innovations.
I will just quickly ask you about the core team, because it's really interesting how they contributed at that time that it could scale so fast and eventually would rapidly grow to the extent that you're saying you are at this moment right now. So can you please tell us about like how was it then, and how when you grew up so rapidly, how did it feel at the time, and what do you think, except from the scalability, attributed to your rapid expansion?
Yeah, so I mean, the core team, we had kind of, as we pivoted to blockchain, we assembled a team of systems engineers who have experience building kind of scalable systems across Google, Facebook, Microsoft. My co-founder was at Microsoft, and then he joined a startup that built a sharded database. Which is like served by a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And so we had a lot of core engineers, kind of founding engineers who were pretty much from Google or Facebook, building distributed systems. And so the goal really was like, how do we build this in a conceptually correct way, and then open it up as a platform then to other developers to build applications. And so sharding design under the hood, account abstraction from day one, kind of WebAssembly as a developer environment, a set of developer tools and kind of infrastructure to really remove the barriers to entry. And I think the main attribution for the growth and kind of usage is coming from ease of use, because if you imagine like as a developer, you're building an application, if you cannot onboard your users, right? If your drop-off rate on people installing MetaMask, funding it, doing all this thing, is like 92%, right? It's only like 5% or 8% are joining, right? You need to have so much more people coming in, right, to actually get to 1 million users. So Near, for example, we just had an application launched beginning of February. It already has 5 million users. So from zero, they grew to 1 million users in 10 days.
10 days?
Yes. It's only twice slower than ChatGPT, and probably like 6 or 10 times faster than Instagram and like some other like fast growing applications. So the idea here is like on Near ease onboarding, you can hide transaction fees through meta transactions, and you can allow users to actually interact and transact across this extremely easily. And it scales, and that's an important part, because like all of the developers, if you build for it and then you get 1 million users and then your blockchain stops working, right, or your transaction fees become like astronomical, well, that doesn't work either, right? So like it's almost like everyone in crypto is naturally limited right now by how much growth they have, because like if they do have a lot of growth, they will be like, it will really become expensive for everyone. So kind of solving those problems, right? Again, with sharding we can add capacity, so like 1 more million users join, we add more shard, right? And so the idea, again, like I've said it many times, but we want to get to 1 billion users actually using this constantly.
I was curious in this case, 1 billion users specifically to Near protocol or to Web3 in general?
So this has actually been a transition we've been on for the past year. And so kind of when we started, we were like, okay, we're going to build Near protocol the right way, and we're going to attract everyone there, and everybody should build there, right? Very kind of, in a way, maximalism stance. But the reality is, like, I'm personally not a maximalist. I kind of believe in this space, and that's why we've done this whiteboard series where we interviewed all the other protocols, because I want to share, I want to learn, I want to build us together. And so kind of in 22, like at the end, we were realizing this, like, hey, there's a mismatch where like we want to be maximalist, but at the same time, there's so much interesting things happening across Web3. There's other, applications that have been built on other chains. It doesn't make sense, like if they want to be there, like for whatever reason, it doesn't make sense to try to like, pull them into Near. And so instead, how do we make it easy for our users, as well as for our applications, to interact with the whole Web3, with other chains, with Bitcoin, with Dogecoin, with Solana, with Cosmos chains, with EVMs, Ethereum, layer 2s. And so we started building this stack we call chain abstraction stack, which allows to have this kind of connectivity across all of the Web3, that if you have a Near account, you're able to transact on every chain. You're able to have assets on every chain. You're able to write smart contracts on Near that can transact and interact with everything. And so the simplest use case is actually a exchange. Right now, the multi-chain experience of Web3 is Binance.
Yes,
like that's that's the only place. Like bridges, whatever, it's so small. Binance is where you go deposit your assets, and then you trade, you interact, you do, and it doesn't matter. Like it's fully chain abstracted. You don't think which blockchain you're using. You don't need to think about transaction fees. And so we're trying to actually deliver that experience to non-custodial users across all chains, and in such way that if somebody launches a new blockchain, it's already integrated. There's no integration cost, there's no integration time, it's already working. You can go and connect your wallet and already start using applications that chain. We want to do it in such a way that you can also write smart contracts, right? So Binance is, it's a one app. You cannot just go and like, guys, I want to launch something in your website that will do this. But with Near, you can. And so that's kind of, this chain abstraction, there's a lot of pieces to it, right? But like from a user perspective, now users, there's 10 million plus users can just go and use applications of other chains, and they will not even know this because it's fully abstracted. The transaction fees, the bridging, all of that is not, like, they don't need to think about it. And then if you're a developer, you now have an insanely new primitive. And actually, we see this now. Past 2 hackathons, East Seoul and East Amsterdam, has been won by people using chain abstraction now, because it's easier to build on Ethereum now through this framework, because you can build multi-chain applications that connect Ethereum chains, and it's easier to onboard users into that. So we see now that this is kind of the approach, is really connecting Web3 and really kind of tying these pieces together, and then really making experience easier for both developers and users. So that's kind of the exciting part, is like we build the basement, the kind of the foundation, the scalable platform that we can onboard users to. And now it's true that like Near doesn't have as big economy as Ethereum, right? Nobody does. Solana has really cool, interesting things. Bitcoin with halvening just happened. There's a ton of stuff going on. There's even more launching. There's all this new kind of chains like that are specialized in a specific way that, will not make sense to put on the generic smart contract platform, but you still want users to have the same experience. And so that's kind of what we bring into market, and we see really good reception and people starting to build on this.
I totally support that, especially one of the trends that has been discussed over like multiple conferences. It's multi-chain is the future. So in this case, you were probably one of the first who were focusing on that, if I'm not mistaken. Right now, let's say there are more as well developments, but correct me if I'm wrong. When you thought that this is the way, this is the direction where a Near team should go, and should focus on?
That was somewhere end of 22. So we were kind of, we first, I would say, we were trying to brand it a little bit differently with blockchain operating system. It's the same concept as what we're doing now. It just was a little bit not clear. But chain abstraction is the right kind of narrative and story. And as well as, it's not just us building that, right? There's a lot of people kind of trying to achieve that vision. And so everybody now understands that this is a vision. Like I just saw a tweet, a lot of different protocols now there's a report now that's are on chain abstraction bandwagon. And so, but yeah, for us, kind of the idea started actually when we started Near, is that we want to abstract the blockchain from the users. We just thought of it that we want to abstract the Near blockchain from the users. And then in 22, I was like, okay, well, we should abstract all the blockchains from the users.
Well, effectively, they say, in the future, again, people will be using blockchain without thinking, they're using internet without thinking what is internet and what is blockchain. So you're actually aiming for that as well. Exactly,
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. We were trying to aim for that from the start of Near.
For the initiation.
But we were just focused on Near itself, right? And now we're okay, well, actually, there's a ton of stuff that's happening across Web3. You cannot be maximalist. You need to really be kind of opening up and connecting everything.
Understood. Let's focus right now. I'd like to talk more about Near Foundation, because when you initiated that one, can you please tell our audience what role does it play in your ecosystem? And as far as I heard from so many startups, throughout starting 2021, 2022 especially, and 2023, even before, let's say, the bear market was in a full swing, so many startups, they were trying to apply for a grant from Near Foundation. Can you please tell us more about this initiation and how is it going right now?
Yeah, so the Near Foundation actually started in late 2019, and you generally need a foundation to have token launch and oversight of the protocol while it's being set up. And so we launched in 2020. The launch itself was decentralized. We had validators and token holders voting for launching and unlocking the token and transfers, and so completely decentralized. Foundation serves more of a kind of coordination function as this ecosystem being developed, right? How do we, coordinate infrastructure to make sure that there's all the pieces required there? How do we make sure that, there's development team working on the core protocol and advancing research? And so the kind of, function is to continue pretty much promoting the Near platform and kind of, continue expanding what Near is offering. Now, I think during the kind of last bull market, right, the whole Web3 space got into this grant mode where everybody was pretty much hunting developers and giving them money to build on their blockchain. And Near Foundation wasn't out of this, so we had a pretty big kind of grants and funding platform which we were distributing. The problem is grants are not a good model, because grants are on the other side considered as free money with very minimal obligation. And even though a lot of grants at Near Foundation, for example, have given are milestone based, and to actually receive all the money you need to deliver milestones. But the problem is it's not very well aligned with how the startups and companies work. What you want is investments, and you want
dedication.
You want founders to have dedication, kind of this belief that this is a place to build, right? And again, kind of as we shifted away from this maximalism where everybody's trying to bring people in on their chain, and instead saying hey, we want to build the infrastructure you want to use, right? If you not want to use this, if this is not solving a problem, then probably this is not for you. This should be really solving a problem. And chain abstraction, as I said, right now, solving real people problem. We have data availability. Again, the cheapest data availability right now in the market for layer 2s. It has the most bandwidth. It's right now the fastest on block time. Right, so it's better product across all things. If you decide to receive money instead and end up spending more for using somebody else's product, that's your decision. If you want the best product in the market, you want access to the most users, you want access to all the other blockchains, Near is for you. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for people who actually want to build on the best technology and best product, on something that scales, and not somebody who's looking for more free money. And so we're not doing grants anymore. We do some very strategic investments when we are working on with companies that are aligned on our kind of infrastructure roadmap, right? So if we see like, we want to develop, for example, a decentralized RPC, we can then partner up with a company and startup that's building that, have a strategic investment, and kind of work with them closely to really deliver what we see as the impact for the ecosystem. And so that's kind of the model that we see. And I think a lot of other kind of prominent foundations as well switch to this as well, because grants have been kind of a very poorly, like the ROI was very poor kind of from 21, 22.
Encrypted is your exclusive ticket to the epicenter of technological innovations in the MENA region.
You actually recently announced your initiative to hire more AI engineers and developers. The developer use their own AI within the next 3-6 months. Can you please tell us what are the main objectives behind that initiative?
Yeah, so we're gonna announce more in a few weeks, but just to give you a kind of high level idea, right? So again, the vision, the broader vision, right, is of the self-sovereignty of user ownership. That's why, again, maximalism doesn't make sense, because at the end, it's like if we're achieving this vision by combining all of our efforts, that is what we're trying to do, right? If people are able to control their assets, they have the control of their data, and they in general are in control and making their decisions, they have power of choice and governance, then we're winning, right, as Web3. And that's why we want 1 billion users in Web3, right? And so the important part to understand, though, if the AI development continues staying closed, if this tooling is not available to people, if the decisions behind how to train these models and how to use them are driven by creating more revenue for mega corporations, we will not be successful in our Web3 vision. Web3 will collapse if this continue happening. And so we actually are at this fork in the road where either the flywheel of centralized companies that are creating intelligence tooling that is helping them to attract more users and extract more value from users, then leads for them to build better, more sophisticated AI, right? This flywheel is, right now spinning extremely quickly. And so we either have an alternative, which is a kind of Web3 values alternative, which is open, where the AI is on the user side, right? Again, just conceptually, when you're sitting in one of this big companies, you, not because you're evil, but you have a very specific motivation. When you're launching new product, new model, you're doing an A/B test, and you're seeing if you are generating more revenue. And you're always picking whatever generates more revenue. And when you already have all of your potential users, right? Like, for example, with Google, there's probably not that many more people who don't use Google in the world that could be. And so you need to, to show growth of revenue, you need to have more revenue per individual user. So you need to actually get them to spend more money. And so to do that, you need, the best and easiest way is to change their behavior. And again, this AI models are really good at figuring out how to change your behavior. They literally are trained on, understanding how people behave and do this. And so that's why kind of this idea of user-owned AI is where AI is on your side. It is kind of trying to maximize your well-being, your financial success, and your kind of, overall goals versus being on the company side, right, trying to maximize their revenue. And so to achieve that, it needs to be open source. It needs to run on your device, or at least
Permissionless.
Decentralized. It needs to be permissionless. You need to know which data goes into it, because the way, what data picked to go into the model really changes how these models think and understand the world. And so all of that is extremely important. And what we see now in Web 2, we have Meta, which do an amazing job with open sourcing their models, but with no clear, there's no motivation for them to do that, except just kind of, as a counterweight. And then all the startups that have been trying to do open source are not able to really maintain that. Because for their business model, they need to kind of sell what they've done to someone, and so people don't they stop open sourcing, or they have challenges with kind of creating business models. And so we need a new model, which is based on nonprofit. It cannot be a for-profit company. We need to pool resources kind of as Web3 space, and we need talent that is aligned with these values. And so that's kind of the overall framework, and we'll be talking more about this kind of in a few weeks.
Oh, by the way, we definitely, if you can also share with us some announcements before, because that's what actually my next question. Because Near protocol, as you mentioned, is leveraged for its nonprofit and decentralized nature to advance the open source accessibility of AI technology. Is there some, let's say, highlights that you can share with us right now?
Putting all these pieces together, we pretty much bringing back Near AI. And so my co-founder actually worked on AI on the side for the past year. We had a team working with him, and so we're bringing this as Near AI, and we're going to be working on open source user-owned AI. We're going to be training models. We're going to be kind of curating data. We're going to be open sourcing data as well, and we're creating a new economic model around it as well.
Which is?
And it's really about having more people join kind of the ecosystem of Near if they want to use the kind of the models, the data we build for commercial purposes. So it's free for non-commercial. If you're an individual user, you can just use it. But if you're a commercial organization, a startup, a company, a project in Web3, you need to join Near ecosystem. You need to have Near kind of staked to really participate in this. And then in turn, you also get benefits, and we're exploring what additional benefits we can offer from compute, data access, etc. And so kind of what we want to create is, instead of this kind of for-profit shareholder system, is really kind of a membership in this user-owned AI. And as more people join, they actually contribute back as well more value, and kind of create an economy around that. And so with the idea that we want to continue advancing the state of the art, as well as one of the clear thing that everybody says we need more developers in Web3 is again bringing Near AI's ideas, which is building AI developer that will allow people to pretty much build software in Web3 without needing to write code. And so again, we've done a lot of background work to do that. Both my co-founder worked on a lot. We had this decentralized front ends, which are actually specifically were designed to be generatable, they're kind of isolated and in smaller components that are easier to generate. And we had 30,000 components created as kind of training data for this. We obviously have smart contracts, and we have chain abstraction to do this for all the chains. So all of this coming together now as kind of a Near AI product, which is Near AI developer, while also creating a platform and ecosystem for everybody else to join as well.
Interesting. By the way, you actually recently, a couple of weeks ago, you were also visiting and you were speaking at Token 2049 conference in Dubai. And at that time, you said it and you explained it also to the audience, that you believe that integrating AI specifically into DAO governance is something that you believe is really has a very important use case. Can you please share with us, can you dwell upon this?
Yeah, so kind of there's a general problem, right? Not the Web3 problem. General problem. It's called principal agent problem. This is where when we select somebody to manage our money or make decisions for us, that individual or a group of individuals have different goals than what we have. And so this is, we always see this in, democratic elections. The candidates say stuff, we vote for them because of this, and then they do something else, right? And with DAOs, there's even more specific problem, which is we kind of remove the hierarchy, right? So in the company, you have a hierarchy and information flows, and you have kind of the thing. And even then, companies always work in progress and kind of how to structure. But in DAOs, there's no hierarchy. And so the information propagation is completely screwed, right? If you want to vote on something, you need to read what everybody else said, right? And so it's extremely hard to navigate. So if you combine all this, what's interesting is that if you imagine there's a AI model that is able to understand what everybody else is, what everybody individually, be it shareholders, users, contributors, want and kind of what they can do, it can actually provide context to everyone individually. So in a way, it's if you imagine any one person can only manage 7-10 people, this model can manage kind of potentially infinite amount of people by providing them context and explaining to them why decisions were made. Now, one step further, it can also make decisions, right? Given it has all the context and knows what is this DAO's and organization's goals, it can find out what are the best decisions to make to propagate these goals.
Can I ask you, in this case, can AI be trained to be impartial while defining these goals and again, going and following these goals?
So I think the goals probably will be still defined by the token holders, shareholders, stakeholders, whatever the population of the governed entity. They can decide hey, this year we want to maximize how much users have been using this platform, or we want to build more roads to reduce the traffic
congestion
or drainage. But then the model can figure out how to coordinate everybody in its kind of area, who to pay, what money, how to maybe this is not working, this fire, etc. So it's more in a way the kind of operational, coordinational, and kind of execution role. And then you can still have a veto power over it, right? And so again, DAOs are just a really good example of this being very self-contained. This principle, I think, will apply actually across all governments and governance and coordination. But on the DAOs, it's a very self-contained problem, and DAOs don't work right now, again, because of this coordination, not scaling problem. And so now you can start with very simple, right? Instead of reading all the forums and talking to everyone, when you're going to vote for something, it summarizes all the discussions for this, and you can ask it questions what is this? What are the pros and cons, etc. Right? So this is a very simple version of this, kind of your governance co-pilot. But then again, the next step is actually it looks at all of this and makes a decision directly, and now you as a stakeholder can just veto it, right? So now it can start making decisions faster. And it can actually weigh in and estimate which decisions will lead more to whatever the goals are, attracting more users, right? And it will make mistakes, right, as we do, but it will learn from that. And so that's called reinforcement learning. This is actually the method in machine learning. That's what DeepMind have been doing a lot. And so you can start having this model pretty much what if I try this? What if I try this? What if I try this? Okay, this works better. Okay, let's try more of this, right? And then people can be kind of more of a veto, checking that it's not, trying to turn everyone into clippers, and as well as a users and stakeholders, you can actually provide a direct feedback. You can say hey, actually in these cases you should do this. So you can have almost a training data feedback into this model. And this is something that imagine going to a CEO or a president and saying, you know what? You should be doing this way. Here's coaching you should use. Some people will be acceptable, but most probably not, right? So this is where you can actually de-bias it over time as well from whatever it has. It keeps making this decision. We don't agree with it, so you can actually give it training data to de-bias it from that decision. So it cannot be impartial because we are not impartial. The people who are stakeholders are not impartial. They want something specific, but they can bias it into the direction they want, like altogether, for this decisions to be going.
Ilya, I wanted to ask you as well about Near team because you were actually expanded more in the Middle East as well. So can you please share us, do you have, let's say, major goals, what the ones that you want to achieve in the Middle East as well? And will the Near headquarters move from other country to UAE and maybe to Dubai in particular?
So Near itself is a decentralized network, and we have a lot of different parts, right?
But one of the headquarters, let's say like this.
Well, it's more, so we have so-called hubs, right? We have Korea, Vietnam, Balkans. We have kind of, in US, we have multiple kind of teams that are doing different things. There's actually a few teams that are here in Dubai. And so the reality is it's more, there can be a Near Dubai or Near UAE that is really kind of pushing the adoption and usage and kind of integrations here. I think Swiss Foundation, like the Near Foundation is Swiss Foundation. I think that's probably there to stay. It has a very kind of clear set of requirements and rules, and it allows to have a kind of pretty global impact from there. But again, the goal of that is to coordinate the ecosystem and continue advancing it, and let this kind of 1,000 other entities and companies and projects and hubs to bloom and really advance the the adoption of Near.
So one of them will be blooming in Dubai.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Today we had Illia Polosukhin, the founder of Near Protocol. Right now we are moving to our rapid fire questions. Stay tuned with Encrypted.
Rapid fire questions.
So Ilya, I'll be asking you quick questions. You need to answer quickly as well. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you would had to explain Near to a child, how would you do this in one sentence?
Near is the future.
Okay. Name 5 qualities you believe a real entrepreneur should have.
Pragmatism, grit, resourcefulness, patience, mental stability.
What would you never do while building a company?
Change what you're doing every month.
Okay. The biggest misconception about Near Protocol?
That is just a blockchain.
Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Both.
Okay. What's your favorite programming language?
Rust.
Okay. The proudest moment in your Web3 career?
Shipping.
The moment you would like to forget?
Not launching in April 2019.
Finish the sentence. My business philosophy is?
Pragmatic, shipping.
As like the 5 qualities, right?
Yeah.
How often do you practice your keynote speech before going on a stage?
Never.
Never. Okay. If you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
I'm fine where I am.
The most overrated blockchain project in your opinion?
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Okay. Underrated?
Underrated. I mean, I think there's a lot. Yeah.
What are you working on right now when you have free time?
Free time. What is that? Free time.
Okay, that's a question. If there were a movie about your life, how would you call it?
I don't know.
Let's.
Self-sovereignty.
Oh, cool. The next big trend to follow?
Well, I mean, definitely AI Web3 is happening now, but it's gonna get even bigger.
Oh, okay. What is your personal formula for success?
I mean, just figure out where you want to go and then keep iterating, keep making it happen.
And Dubai for you is associated with?
It's good, good place, kind of in the middle for people to come. It's like, I would say for US, Europe, and Asia, like good place. Like it's in the middle. It's like almost like Middle East,
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Today we
Thank
had Illia Polosukhin, co-founder of Near Protocol and CEO of Near Foundation. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.
From the gleaming skyscrapers of Dubai to the innovation hubs of the Middle East and beyond, Encrypted brings you thought-provoking discussions, exclusive insights, and stories of innovation that will leave you inspired.